My name is Mrs. Burton, and I'm the president of Teacher Creative Materials. I'm very excited today to read to you one of my favorite stories, all about Yosemite. Reading really gives you the opportunity to learn about places all over the world. And today I'm going to take you to one of my favorite national parks, Yosemite. Yosemite is a place like no other. There's green as far as the eye can see, but only in spring and summer, of course. In winter, shades of white, blue, and purple streak the mountains and valleys. Year-round, there is a lake so clear you can see the reflections of mountains and skies. Standing at the water's edge, it's like looking at an upside-down world. There are tree-lined trails that give hikers shady comfort, even on the hottest summer days. Towering cliffs, plunging waterfalls, and ancient domes seem like the stuff of movies rather than of the real world. Bears, elk, and deer roam wild. Bats dot the evening sky with flapping wings and piercing cries. Mosquitoes and stinging bugs, dragonflies and butterflies, and all manner of flying creatures everywhere. This is the majestic world of Yosemite. It has a natural beauty that is not found in many places. Millions of tourists agree it is one of the most breathtaking places in the world. Long before people came to Yosemite Valley, the Rocky Mountain cliffs and snaking waterways were already much like we know them today. Plant life flourished. Animals settled in this thriving place. It was a rich environment. People first came to the area about 8,000 years ago. They hunted for food with spears and gathered seeds and other plants to eat. Archaeologists have found some traces of their lives. Fossils and tools they used to have taught us much what we know about them. Stories have also been passed down through the ages, but nobody knows exactly when the stories began. At some point, these people called the place they lived Awani. It was their word for gaping mouth. A gaping mouth is what the wide valley looked like to them. Many think it still looks like that today. About 4,000 years ago, American Indians moved into these valleys. They were called the Miwok. Their name simply means people. That is what they called themselves, and by the late 1700s, the valley was filled with Miwok. They thrived in this environment. It offered them everything they needed to live. Life in Yosemite changed greatly in 1849. That year marked the start of California's gold rush. Thousands of people from all over the country swooped into the area. They wanted to get rich quickly. In their frenzy for gold, miners often pushed the Miwok off their land and out of their homes. Some were killed. Some died of starvation because their resources were taken. Others fought back, trying to preserve their way of life. In time, most Miwok who stayed adapted to Western culture, and they began to dress like Westerners. They began to eat Westerners' type of food, and they took jobs in service to the newcomers. Some served as guides for those who had just arrived. They showed the residents how to live in Yosemite, even though their own way of life was falling away. In time, the number of Miwok dwindled. Today, fewer than 1,000 Miwok live in the area, and they have worked to maintain and restore the traditions of their culture. Two men named Hastings and Ayres went to Yosemite in 1855. They wrote and drew all about the area. Then they shared what they saw with others. Many wanted to see it for themselves. The Wawona Hotel was built so visitors would have a place to stay. A tunnel was carved through a giant sequoia called the Wawona tree so they could drive right through it. The tree became a huge tourist attraction. Soon more businesses were built and people trampled all over Yosemite. The land they used to build for commercial gain. They built homes, they put pieces as souvenirs, and people started to exploit the beauties of Yosemite for their own gain. They didn't take action to preserve the land for the future. A group of conservationists grew worried. They wanted to protect Yosemite. These people made sure that the President of the United States knew all about this problem. Abraham Lincoln joined their cause in 1864, and he placed part of the land in public trust. This was the first time the government set up such protections for public land. It was an act that would start the beginning of the national park movement. So Yellowstone became the first national park in 1872, and it was placed under the care of the U.S. government. Naturalist John Muir wanted the same for Yosemite. Sheep grazing had taken a toll on the land. Railroad tracks laid nearby brought many tourists. Despite the public trust, the land was still overrun and overused, and Yosemite was in danger. Muir spent years getting people to work with him to protect Yosemite. He often wrote about its wonders. He thought such places were key to the health of the earth. He wrote, "All that the sun shines on is beautiful, so long as it's wild." In 1890, the U.S. Congress set aside part of the area as a national park, but Muir thought more needed to be done. In 1903, he asked President Theodore Roosevelt to camp with him in Yosemite. Roosevelt was a fan of the outdoors, and he agreed to come. He was awed by what he saw. Muir convinced him to protect all of Yosemite, and in 1906, he declared all of it a national park. Ansel Adams was a famous photographer who took many photos of the park. He thought it was one of the most striking places on earth and even lived there for a while. He called Yosemite a glitter of green and golden wonder, a colorful caption for his black and white photos of the park. The park is found in the Sierra Nevada mountains. It is 1,169 square miles. Its landscape was first formed 10 million years ago. The uplift of the Earth's crust shaped the land. Then, about 1 million years ago, glaciers carved the mountain rock. Hundreds of plant species make their home in the park. Giant sequoias dot the hills and the valleys. Pine and cedar are also common. All types of wildflowers splash across the grassy meadows. Of the three sequoia groves, Mariposa Grove is the most visited. For a few months during the year, the road leading to the grove is closed due to weather. But avid hikers still find their way. The grizzly giant may be Yosemite's most well-known tree. It is over 209 feet tall. Its base is 96 feet around, and it's easy to see how the tree got its name, grizzly giant. So we're going to show here. Half Dome is one of the most famous domes in the world, rising 5,000 feet over Yosemite Valley. Its rocky face glints in the sun. People come from all over the world to hike the tough trail. Then when they think they've reached their goal, they have to climb the last 400 feet with only 2 metal cables to help them. Looking down may make hikers nervous as they ascend, but they are safe if they are careful. Most injuries are just blisters and twisted ankles. After completing the 10 to 12 hour round trip, hikers return with a great story to tell. Now we're going to take a look at some of the wildlife that's there. John Muir was a naturalist who seemed to have the heart of a poet. He wrote, "How many hearts with warm red blood are there beating under the cover of the woods, and how many teeth and eyes are shining?" He went on, "A multitude of animal people, intimately related to us, but whose lives we know almost nothing, are as busy about their own affairs as we are about ours." Muir studied the animals of Yosemite almost like he studied the land. It was easy to do. Animals were everywhere that you turned. Visitors can still see them day and night. They come in all shapes and sizes. Mule deer, bobcats, and black bears live there in large numbers. Bats fill the night sky. Spotted owls and falcons take to the air as well. Foxes and skinks skitter along the ground. Rivers and lakes are filled with fish. Muir was certainly right. Yosemite is alive with its animal people. Between every 2 pine trees, there is a door leading to a new way of life. John Muir wrote those words in the margin of his notebook, and he was writing about Yosemite. Muir found the beauty of Yosemite's landscape and wildlife inspiring. Countless visitors agree. Although visits are governed and the park is protected, people still come to Yosemite in droves. They hike its mountains, they explore its valleys, they wade in its river and bike in its trails. They camp in the forest and they look out for the wild terrain from the window of a lodge. For just a little while, they make Yosemite their home too. It's good for everybody, Muir also wrote of Yosemite. None can escape its charms. Its natural beauty cleans you like a warm fire, and you'll be willing to stay forever in one place like a tree. Many people wish they could. They dig in their roots, sprout their leaves, and stand with the grizzly giants, watching over the beautiful landscape known as Yosemite. I hope all of you have a great time getting to read today, and I hope all of you get the opportunity to read about places that interest you. Thank you very much.